reality is the world needs you to accomplish your purpose, because that's when the world becomes better. My comedy will impact a part of the world, and my purpose will impact a part of the world, and your purpose will impact a part of the world. My goal is to get people to believe that about themselves, because everybody has it.
Put your hands together for Trenton Davis! I think she's too young to like Beyonce, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, what the hell are you wearing? She's like, I woke up like this.
And once you start chasing it, it's infectious. People want to be around people that are chasing a dream because it's inspiring. And if I do that, I'll die at whatever age, and there's a ton of people, and the one consistent thing is he inspired me to be better, and it was a good life. That's a good life, you know?
What's up, good people? Trenton Davis back in the building. Comedy pop-up. Pew, pew, pew. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. New Year is in like 2 days. Today on the Father's Day podcast, thanks for listening in. Father's Day podcast, as always. Follow the YouTube channel, Comedy Pop-Up. You can get me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that other stuff is at Trenton Comedy. So today, super excited. I got Patrick DeGuire in studio. I'm gonna interview him, and we're just gonna have a good conversation. He's a father, also a comedian. I met Patrick when I first started comedy back in maybe 07, 08. But I'm gonna just give you a quick bio on Patrick. Patrick started performing after losing a significant amount of vision based on an eye disease called optic neuritis, and discovering laughter to be self-therapeutic. Soon after getting started, Patrick won the Improv Harrah's National Comedy Club Talent Search. He's appeared on national television numerous times, including Comedy Central and K-Loco on Galavision, among others. He's been heard on national syndicated radio show, The Bob and Tom Show, and NPR. Patrick has toured, performed with such comedians as Dave Attell, Tommy Davis, and George Lopez, and Paul Rodriguez. And in addition to headlining at top comedy clubs throughout the entire United States, he also performed for the troops in Bahrain, Guantanamo Bay, Djibouti, Dubai, Guam, Honduras, Iraq, Japan, and Korea. So Patrick, man, thank you for spending some time with me this afternoon. How you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I appreciate that.
Good, man. So look, man, we're going to dive right into it. So obviously the title of my podcast is Father's Day. And so these issues, not all of them will revolve around fatherhood. Sometimes we'll talk about comedy, but I like to, I want to kind of, if I can, celebrate fathers. I just don't feel like fathers are celebrated enough. And specifically fathers that are chasing a dream. So whether it's comedy or acting or whatever, I like to talk to people and see how they do that balance. So real quick, I mean, I know I gave your bio, but you know, I got it off the website, patrickdeguirecomedy.com. But from your perspective, I know what are you, 20 years in now, Patrick?
I'm about 20 years in.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So how many kids you got? How old are they? What's the status?
I have 4. I have 3 boys and 1 girl, ranging from 21 all the way down to 13.
So the optic neuritis didn't bother the penis at all, clearly. Clearly it didn't touch the treasure.
I had a seeing eye dog with me every time. So...
Hey, so do your I know the 21, well, you got a different situation. Feel free to share as much as you want or as little as you want, but do your kids live with you, or you share custody with your Okay.
Yes. Been separated for 3 going on 4 years.
Yeah.
You and I had talked about that when it was first starting out. Moved back home for financial reasons.
I got you.
And the good thing about that is I get to be around the kids that much more.
Perfect.
So it's been a good thing on some level.
Heck yeah. So, and back home, are you in San Diego?
San Diego, Chula Vista.
Nice, man. So let me ask you this. Again, feel free to share as much or as little as you want. Do you feel like chasing the dream of comedy impacted your relationship?
Oh, definitely. I think in order to be successful, and I'm sure there would be a lot of people that would dispute what I'm saying.
Okay.
But in my opinion, I think in order to be successful, you almost have to become obsessed with it.
I would agree.
And that means at times sacrificing more than what you would ever imagine that you would sacrifice. Trust me, I have missed Christmases, Thanksgivings, Halloweens, birthdays, graduations. And, you know, when you're first starting out, you don't realize the impact that it might be having on your children in the marriage because you're so driven.
Right.
You're so focused.
Right.
And I think after 10, 15, 20 years, you start to reflect more.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that child that you're asking to hang out with now no longer has time for you.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been bittersweet. With stand-up, I love it, but there's parts of it that I hate more and more, and that's just being away from the family.
Yeah, man. We were talking about this on my first podcast, and I was explaining in the first one just why I'm doing a podcast. And one of the reasons, and you and I talked about it maybe 6 months ago whenever we were at the brewery, but one of the reasons that I wanted to do a podcast is try to expand my audience, but also capture my audience, right? To have my own dedicated audience. And the reason behind that is, to your point, man, like people don't realize when you do comedy, especially at our level, when you're in comedy clubs, you probably fly out on a Wednesday and then you don't come back until Sunday. And to your point, you're missing a lot of life out of the children or the wife. You're missing life, right? But owning our own audience allows us hopefully to, owning our own audience hopefully allows us to, rather than do 6 shows over the course of 7 days, let's just do one big show on a Friday and then we can come back home. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't want to cut you off.
You know, well, the thing is this, too. You need to remember, Trenton, when I started, comedy clubs were open a lot of times Wednesday through Sunday, sometimes even Tuesday through Sunday.
Yeah.
So I was coming back home on Monday, giving the kids a quick kiss, hanging out with them for a couple of hours, and then sometimes literally leaving the next day or the day after.
Right.
The thing that makes it tough, and I'll tell your listeners this, with comedy, unless you have clout, and I mean major clout, if you're given a week and something comes up, the comedy club, the booker, will definitely understand if you aren't able to do it.
Right.
But you aren't guaranteed to get a replacement week within a month or two.
Right.
You might have to wait a year, especially if you've been pounding these doors to get into that club, because there's just too many comics out there.
Yeah.
When my mother-in-law died, I wasn't able to go to the funeral because I had a date.
Right.
I had a date in Laughlin.
Yeah.
And I was bugging the booker for quite some time. It was quite a bit of money.
Right.
And I understood that I could definitely drop it. But when you're supporting a family of 4 kids, you got a mortgage payment.
Yeah.
That's hard to replace that money.
Oh, I agree.
And it's tough. It's a double-edged sword because in hindsight, I think that Sophia, you know, who I was married to, well, still married, just separated, but I think that really pissed her off. And I think as years go by, you know, bitterness starts to come up and, you know, you weren't here, you weren't there, and before long, you know, you're having some issues.
No, I couldn't agree more. And the other thing about comedy, really any art, right, is we're not on salary, right? So to your point, we don't get PTO. We don't get paid time off. And so to your point, when you have a family emergency, when you have a death in the family or one of the kids gets sick or anything, the booker will understand and be like, no, I get it. But we don't get that money. I remember this happened this year. I was broke and I needed the money to make rent. And I was booked at Harvey's in Portland. And the one time in like 5 years, it snowed in Portland. And the booker called me the day before and was like, yo, we're gonna close the club for the night. I mean, for the week. So all of a sudden, I'm expecting $2,000 to pay rent, and that $2,000 is gone after one phone call. And so what do you do? Right? What do you, I mean, I can't call up another club and say, hey, can I come to your club? Because every club is probably booked at this point because there's so many comics, at least 3 months out, most likely 6 months out.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely tough.
Yeah.
And I don't regret what I did because I did it for the right reasons.
Right.
I mean, bottom line is that you're trying to create a name.
Right.
But in the process, there's also collateral damage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is what it is. And it's tough. It's tough to juggle.
So my question is, what's the alternative, right? It is the alternative. And I'm asking, is the alternative
is quality over quantity.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's the thing. But the thing is this though too, even when you're home, you gotta hustle on the phone calls. You gotta send out those emails.
Yeah.
You're looking to still hit the local scene.
Yeah.
It is nonstop.
Yeah.
I would tell any of your listeners, man, comedy, I think, is one of the best things that someone could ever do, but I definitely think it helps if you are single and you only have to worry about yourself, because I can assure you, if you are driven, motivated, focused to make this a career, there will be collateral damage.
Yes.
No ins, no ifs, no buts.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say same thing, and not just comedy. I think anything where you're chasing a dream. And I mentioned the first podcast, and I'll say it on most of them. This 10,000 hours, right, is the time it takes to become great at anything. Well, it's hard to get 10,000 hours when you also have a wife and children. It's hard to get it. And look, this is not a podcast where I'm going to bash women, but I'm going to say this, and it may be controversial, and I'd love to get a woman on maybe next time to have this conversation. But you know how there's the adage that says behind every great man is a supportive woman? I would argue that's probably true. But I would also argue behind every failed person is like 3 or 4 women that just beat the shit out of him emotionally until he quit. Let's be honest, right? And I'm not shitting on women, but I know from different classes and counseling classes and things like that, women, for the most part, not all, but for the most part, women's number one need is quality time.
Of course.
Right? It's quality time. Conversely, right, in order to be great at anything, you have to spend massive amounts of time doing it.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is you can't do both. You can't be spending quality time with your girl and also try to be great at anything. And I don't care who you talk to.
I think you say the key word, Trenton, for your listeners, that your listeners need to understand. There's a difference between being competent and good.
Yes.
If you're going for greatness, to be the best of the best,
right.
I mean, I hear stories about Jerry Rice and Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And obviously, their marriages suffered.
Right.
But there's something to it. We're not talking about just being good enough.
Right.
To be an opener, a feature. We're talking about getting to become a national touring headliner.
That's exactly right.
To be able to have some clout to your name.
Yes.
We're talking about being great. We're not talking about just getting by.
That's exactly
if you want to get by, you could probably juggle it a lot easier.
Right.
But if you are looking to hit hard, there's going to be collateral damage.
That's exactly right, man. And I was going to bring up Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, any of those guys, Tom Brady, right? In order to be that level of great, not only are they playing games, but more than that, they're doing the practice, right? They're spending, Kobe used to say he would shoot 2,000 shots a day, right? That takes time. And look, and he's at a level where he has a rebounder, right? He has somebody, 2 or 3 guys probably throwing him the ball. Well, what about all those guys that haven't made it to Kobe's level yet, right? They don't have a rebounder. They're shooting it, going to get it. Shoot it, going to get it. Whatever. And it's the same with comedy, man. It's the same in that even when we're not on the road hey, I still need to go to open mics. I still need to go write. I need to spend an hour or 2 hours writing new material so it's fresh.
And more importantly, you got to hustle and get work. And
Yes.
that in itself can take up hours in a day.
I remember I was dating a girl, I won't name names, and she asked me, she said, why are you going to this open mic? They're not paying you anything. And I said, look, you go to the open mics so that later in life I can ask for $10,000 a show. So if I never hit the open mics, I'll never get to the level, but that's how they see it. They only see.
Not only that, but it's networking.
Yes.
Network.
Yep.
It is so like I used to get bashed a lot by the wife for taking gigs for $20, $50, $100.
Right.
And
right.
my thing is like, hey, look, I understand I'm worth a lot more.
Right.
But my thinking is I would rather come home with 20, 50, 100 in the pocket than nothing. And at the same time, being able to build on my set, network,
right.
maybe sell some merch.
Right.
It never made sense to me to leave anything on the table.
I would agree.
You know, hey, I guess to some extent I'm a comic whore, but you know what? It's what I love. And again, when you got a mortgage and 4 kids,
yeah,
I can tell you this, Trenton. There has been many times where I've been offered $50.
Yep.
I've taken the $50, sold 8, 9, 10 shirts.
Right.
Made some friends and got a lot more than $50.
Right. Right. No, I'm with you. You. Hey, so my question is, do you think that the battle that we have with our spouses, do you think that is specific to women, or is it just specific to one spouse is chasing a dream and the other one maybe isn't? Right? Is it the other way around?
That one.
Okay.
I think it's that one.
Right.
You have to be selfish again.
Yeah.
Bottom line, and that's not good for a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what's crazy, man? I did a show a week ago at the Comedy Palace. It was a private event.
Right.
And this comic came down from L.A.
Right.
3 hours from L.A. to San Diego because of traffic.
Right.
2 hours back. That's 5 hours to do a 20-minute fucking spot.
Yeah.
5 fucking hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not even him there performing. So he's gone for 6 hours.
Yeah.
I guarantee you this place that he performed at didn't pay him more than 100.
Right.
So
right.
you're telling me by the time he's done paying gas, so let's say that you're up 60, that a woman's going to be like, you know what, baby? That's right.
Right.
Go.
Yeah.
You're gone for 6 hours and you come home with $60. Man, fuck that shit.
I know. So what, have you ever had somebody to ask you to quit? Or like, just quit?
No, because fortunately I've been making enough money
right.
that it would be foolish of me to quit.
Right. And at this point, you're 20 in. You can't quit now.
I will tell you this.
Okay.
If I had a good job, like a lot of my buddies
right.
that work for the city or for the county or for some leading electronic company like Qualcomm,
right.
I couldn't see quitting that job to pursue stand-up.
Okay.
It just doesn't. I was very fortunate because when I lost my vision, I started doing stand-up, as you mentioned in my bio, as a form of self-therapy.
Right.
So my wife was just grateful I wasn't putting a gun to my head.
I got you.
She was like, you know what? Just do what you got to do to make yourself feel better.
Right. Okay.
Well, within a short amount of time, I had some real early success, and things just snowballed.
Right.
So I was extremely lucky.
Okay.
But I have people that I'm very close with that are in that dilemma of, I got a great job, I love doing stand-up, and I'm thinking, man, I'm not being a hater.
Right.
Keep your job. I would not quit to pursue stand-up. There's so many variables.
I agree with you 1,000%. I tell people, do not quit your day job until you absolutely have to, until you're standing in the way of a check that's, in my opinion, $300,000 or more. At that point, quit your day job. I agree. Matter of fact, Patrick, I'm writing a book called "Don't Quit Your Day Job" because I think whether it's media, or TV, or American Idol and stuff like that, make people think that the journey is short. It makes people think the journey is, 6 months and then you're discovered.
I tell you what, Trenton, I know many comedians that have HBO specials,
right.
Showtime specials, Comedy Central specials that are still struggling.
Yeah.
There are very, very few comics that will end up being able to retire.
I agree.
Stand up.
I agree.
And that's why you got to be smart with your money. You have to diversify, like what you're doing right now with podcasts,
yeah.
with me booking comedy shows.
Yeah.
It just can't be straight up stand up anymore.
Yeah.
You have to do more with it.
I agree.
Because I tell you what, man, there's nothing sexy. Like you hear comics when they first start off, man, I'm a starving artist, man. I don't give a fuck. I got no backup plan because this is my only plan I got. Well, you know what? That's sexy when you're in your 20s,
right?
Maybe in your 30s.
Yeah.
You start to hit your 40s. You're like, you know what, man? This ain't fun eating top ramen.
I'm with you.
Nothing sexy about struggling.
I agree.
I can assure you of that. There's nothing sexy.
I agree, man. You know what's funny, Patrick? I did the Atlantis in the Bahamas like 2 years ago, and that was the first time I was able to take my daughter on a vacation. That's how much the grind is of comedy. It's like, even if you want to say, okay, I'm going to take 2 weeks off and go on vacation, it's not only, this is what people don't get, it's not only that you're not getting paid those 2 weeks, but you're also spending money, right? So it's almost double the whammy.
That is so funny. I got 4 kids. They want to come with me on vacation. And I'm like, dude, fuck that. Dude, first of all, I got to fucking fly you.
Yes.
And then I got to feed you. And I got to feed you 3 meals. See, I'm good eating once a day. See,
exactly.
When you're a comic and you want to make a lot of money on the road,
right?
What you do is you stay up so late that you fucking bypass breakfast and lunch.
Yes.
And all you have to worry about is fucking dinner.
Yeah, and hopefully you can eat at the club.
Yeah, well, the thing is about Vegas, for example, employee dining rooms serve some of the worst food. It's not good.
Yeah.
Vegas can be extremely expensive to eat. Like a foot long at Subway is about $13, $14.
Yeah,
So if you're thinking about bringing the kids, God forbid, you'd be broke.
Dude, you'll lose money.
On the road to become broke. I'm sorry. I just don't.
Dude, that's why you and I talked about it. I would say, if you ever get a chance, do the Atlantis. It's booked through Comedy Zone, because at least there, now look, you got to pay to fly them out. And by then, you've already lost the money, right? But at least there, you've already lost the money. It's a wrap. But you get the room, is included. And the room is probably $500 a night. But they also get the water park for free. And so it's totally worth it. Now, look, the problem is the gig is 2 weeks, and you don't want them there for 2 weeks because then you'll lose money. But if you get them there for like 5 days, and then after that, because I'm like you, I eat once a day. When I'm on the road, I eat once a day. I try to eat at like 1 or 2 o'clock, and that'll last me until I get to the club. And if it's a club that serves food, I'll get something. If not, I'm like, we just got to wait till tomorrow. That's the grind, man. Because if you eat out, think about it. Even if you eat out twice, man, you're at $30 a day times 6 days, right? So now we're at $180. I'm only getting paid $800, $900, and I've also had to drive or fly to get there.
Yeah, you know what? The thing is, your listeners are thinking, come on, man, food ain't that expensive. Well, fucking shit.
Yes.
It adds up. Like what I said, Vegas, you're probably looking at close to $40, $45, $50 a day.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And when you go 7 days, that's $350.
I agree.
So drop it down to $3. That's $300. That's a car payment.
Now look,
it's like now, you know what?
Now add kids to that. Now bring your kids.
Yeah.
You would definitely lose money, 100%. Look, once you have kids, unless you made it, made it, right? But at our level, you have kids, you got to decide which trips you're going to take them on and which trips you can't. And I'm looking at, honestly, once a year, I'm like, okay, I'll do the Bahamas.
Hey, I just tell them to use your imagination. That's what it's going to be.
Vacation imagination. I hear you, man. That is crazy. Hey, so what are your thoughts though, right? So let's go back to chasing your dream and having a partner that maybe it just weighs on them, right? Is the answer wait until you make it and then get married and have kids? Because then you're looking at probably in your 40s, right? Is that the answer to you? If you're talking to young comics, what would you say?
Look, if I had to do it all over again, I would. The thing is, I always wanted a big family.
Okay.
And I don't know if I would do anything different to some extent, because look, there's a lot of occupations, whether you're a business traveler or in the military, where you are gone.
That's so true.
A lot. Now, I will say this. I think the more and more money I made, the more and more I wanted. And I probably could have stayed home a little bit more from time to time.
Okay.
I think when you start to pick up that momentum, you're on the road 45, 50 weeks, sometimes a year.
Yeah.
And maybe I could have done closer to 40.
Right.
45 versus 45, 50. At the same time, though, you're never guaranteed money, so you're trying to make as much. It's a double-edged sword.
I know.
So, I'm sort of contradicting myself, because at the same time, I'm also smart enough to realize, hey, you could have 12 solid months and then eat donkey dick for the next 9 months. Nothing is ever guaranteed. But I think the kids also realize that you weren't there, not because you were a deadbeat, but because that you were out there hustling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wasn't coming home, and I came home a week later because I was out on the town getting fucked up, fucking everything left and right.
Right.
I was gone because I was making money trying to give them a better life.
Dude, so I got two questions. I say, one of the things I say outside of food, shelter, and like health insurance, outside of that, I think the most important thing a parent can do is chase his or her dreams, because that really shows the child that they can actually chase their dream, right? Everybody says you can be whatever you want, but it's not until you actually see somebody on that grind that you really believe it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then the question is now, if you look back, right, would you have not missed different things for school and just say, look, I'm gonna live off less money? Or would you have done the exact same thing? So you know what, I gotta go this route.
Knowing me, I gotta go this route. And you know what? Who knows, Trenton? We could have this conversation 5 more years from now, 10 more years, and I'll even be that much more somber.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you what, I remember my mom pulling me aside. I had back in the day, military was a cash cow.
Okay.
Trust me.
Okay.
You could make thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and I was always hustling a lot of these overseas tours.
Okay, real quick, just for the listeners, when you say military, you're saying performing for different bases with like a USO
different
tour.
Bases, both stateside and overseas.
Okay, all right, so go ahead.
And I remember throwing these lavish birthday parties for my kids. Like one year, the year I'm referring to, we had like 2 piñatas, taco vendors.
Wow.
Different characters coming wearing SpongeBob costumes, juggler, whatever.
Right.
And the entire time, my mom told me she noticed that I was on my phone and I was hustling.
Right.
But I wasn't even there to enjoy it, even though I was there.
Okay.
And she's like, you know what? You got to put your family first. And I told my mom, you know what? Comedy comes first.
Yeah.
And she was just appalled, and I was like, "What's your fucking problem? It's what comes first in my life."
Right.
And what I realize is, in theory, it is selfish.
Yeah.
On some levels.
Right.
And I'm starting to better understand. But man, I tell you what, I think that a lot of the reasons I'm working in Vegas, working some of the top comedy clubs,
right,
and doing as much as I've done, is because of the groundwork that I've laid out.
Yeah.
You know, it comes. So I probably wouldn't change much, but maybe try to be home a little bit more.
Yeah.
But again, I live by quantity, not quality. Quality, not quantity.
Yeah, I'm with you. I made a rule, and it's a little bit different because I do have a very supportive day job, but I made a couple different rules that have helped me balance. That's what I think we're always searching for, is just the right balance, and you don't know, right? It's all a test, but I made the rule. I said, you know what? Obviously, I'll never miss a birthday. I won't miss Father's Day. I won't miss, Christmas or New Year's. But even with New Year's, I say, look, I won't miss New Year's under $3,000. My daughter's time to me is worth anything to $3,000, right? But let's say somebody offered me $10,000, and I know people listening may say, "So you're saying your daughter's time is not worth $10,000?" I'm like, no, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that's a big enough amount where actually that changes her life, right? And I'm not saying it changes her life where she gets to go out and buy a Ferrari, but I'm saying that's a significant enough amount where now daddy can afford to do Disneyland, or I can afford to take a weekend off for a recital or blah, blah, blah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But the thing is, too, and I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But what your listeners have to realize in these younger comics is, again, you could have 12 phenomenal months, and then have shit the next 9 months.
That's so true. That's so true.
My thing is, everything is open. Look, my mom one time told me this. She goes, "If I die when you're on the road, just finish up your week. What are you going to do?" And to some extent, that's always been my thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, what can I do?
Yeah.
I got to finish up the week. Hey, you hear about all these times these football players playing when their parents look at Brett Favre.
Yeah.
I think his dad died the day before.
Yeah.
And he's out playing against the Raiders.
Yeah.
Just destroying them.
Yeah.
The point of the matter is that the show must go on.
Yeah.
And that's the business. Like what you said, we don't have personal time.
Right.
We really don't have. And I don't think unless you're in the game, you get it.
Right.
Like, I got a great relationship with the Laugh Factory in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Harry Basil takes care of me extremely well.
Good.
And I feel that Harry and I are extremely good friends.
Awesome.
But if something would happen, I know Harry would understand, be extremely supportive.
Right.
But he has such a backlog of comics.
Yeah.
Again, like what we talked about earlier, I'm not going to get screwed by Harry. He's not going to hold it against me. But I guarantee I'm going to have to wait for another year to get that date back.
Yeah.
And the thing is, for me, nothing is off the books.
Right.
If someone would call me up today and say, "Hey, Patrick, $1,000 New Year's Eve."
Right.
Gone.
Done.
Gone.
Yeah.
That's been my mentality.
Right.
Because again, I got the response. You got one daughter.
Right.
Try having 4 kids.
Oh, I know, man.
That really puts your feet to the fire.
Yeah.
It makes you realize, dude, I will take whatever I can get. Nothing for me is off the books. Nothing.
Even birthdays, nothing.
Oh, bro, I've missed many, many birthdays. I missed my daughter's birthday this past year when she turned 13, but guess where I was at?
Hey, so
I was in Kansas City with Paul Rodriguez doing a fundraiser for 2 fallen police officers.
Oh, man.
So I missed her 13th birthday.
Yeah.
I mean, it happened.
So
I was not home for my son's 21st birthday.
Yeah.
I was in Vegas.
That's tough, man.
It happened.
So let me ask you this: we're getting ready to wrap up. We're a little bit over 30 minutes. Let me ask you one more question, real quick. How do you think it would impact your kids if you weren't chasing your dream? Like, and how would it impact you, your mood, your spirit? Like, if you weren't chasing your dream, if you decided, you know what, I'm going to get this job at Qualcomm, and maybe I'm making better money, maybe I got PTO, and maybe I have a 401k in retirement. But you as a husband, you as a father, how would it impact you if you're not chasing your dream, if you're not happy?
That's a good question, man. I think I would feel there was something missing.
Right.
But you got to remember, when I started because of my loss of vision.
Right.
I think in hindsight, I might have gone back to school, have something to fall back on.
Right.
But I pursued stand-up, and after you've been doing it for 20 years, you really can't drop it and start something new.
I agree.
Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, like what you said, I like what you said. I hope that my children look at me and what I've done as, hey, he pursued something
right,
and went balls out.
Yeah.
There's definitely some collateral damage but there's something to be said and admired for doing that though too.
100%.
I can look at it from both. It's definitely a double-edged sword.
Well, I think the reason I asked that question, Patrick, is I think when people, and I say people, your spouse, your significant other, when he or she asks you to quit, what they don't see is the other, because the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, but what they don't see is on that other side of the fence, okay, fine, yeah, I'm home more, but I drink more and I'm miserable, and as a result, I'm making your life miserable as a spouse, making these kids miserable as a father, because I'm unhappy, right? It's not like you just quit and you get this job and everything is great. No, if you look at the majority of people in corporate America, A, the majority of people in corporate America have given up on their dreams, and B, the majority of people in corporate America are unhappy and have horrible relationships anyway, have horrible relationships with their kids anyway, end up cheating on their wife anyway. So Jim Carrey said, hey, you can fail doing what you don't love, so you might as well do what you love. And I think that's what that spouse doesn't see oftentimes.
Very, very well said. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
I'm going to say one more thing, and then, like I said, we're going to wrap up. I thought it was interesting. I watched the movie about Martin Luther King, came out like a year ago, 2 years ago, but I didn't know as much that his wife, Scott King, wanted him to quit. She was like, I'm tired of you going and doing these speeches and really being the forefront of the civil rights movement. And in fairness to hers, because she was afraid that he was going to be killed, and she was right. But I look at that and I say, what if he would have quit, right? If he would have quit, you and I wouldn't be,
good point.
Right? What if he would have quit? Like that, not only does that impact him, that impacted all of the world. Does that make sense? It impacted the whole world.
I just realized though too, Trenton, before I let you guys go,
yeah,
there has to be great people too.
You have to.
I want people to be obsessed. There has to be some obsessed people in this world.
Yes.
Whether it's Mark Zuckerberg or all these geniuses, there has to be some people that just go over the top.
Yes.
And I think when you look at the best of the best in a particular field,
right.
Hey, that's what we do.
That's it, man. I agree.
And
1,000%.
Please tell your listeners to follow me on Instagram at Patrick D Comedy if they want to follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, perfect. Hey, Patrick, say that again.
Comedy.
Yeah, say that one more time for us.
Patrick D Comedy.
Okay.
Patrick D Comedy.
Patrick, thank you, man. I appreciate you so much for spending time with me. Thank you for reflecting.
Much love, Trenton. We got to hang out again, man. It was good talking. This is a good conversation.
It was phenomenal. Hey, one more quick question for you. Imagine this is going to come out 3 weeks from now. So where will you be in early February? Where can people see you perform? Do you know?
I got to start. I got to look at my calendar.
Okay.
Just have them go to my website.
Okay.
PatrickDeGuireComedy.com. My calendar is there.
Perfect.
You'll be able to see all my upcoming dates. I try to keep it updated as much as possible, but
Perfect.
Yeah, it'll be there.
All right, thanks, man. I appreciate you so much.
Okay, Trenton, much love, buddy.
All right, have a happy New Year.
Happy New Year, too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Father's Day podcast. That was a great conversation with Patrick. Patrick is super funny. Go check him out. He works harder than anybody I know, and the dude is blind, so he's always having to catch a ride with somebody. I mean, he just works exponentially hard. I got a special place in my heart for him because my mother is blind, so I understand those challenges intimately. So, Patrick, thanks again for jumping on. Listeners, thank you guys for hanging out with me. Again, follow me at Trenton Comedy on all social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Make sure you follow Comedy Pop Up, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.